Daniel Cormier's commentary makes my skin crawl. Longtime fans of my channel know I cannot stand the guy. I hate everything about him, everything he stands for. The last time I opened up a UFC and heard his voice, I legitimately, I swear to God, I'm not kidding, I started convulsing. Foam was coming out of my mouth. I just flopped to the ground and began spasming. And look, I can't 100% point the cause of that to his commentary, but that is exactly what I'm going to do because, frankly, I do not like the guy. Now, I'm sure everyone remembers when Dominic Cruz came out and said he always mutes Daniel Cormier when he's commentating.
When it comes to DC, I usually mute it. I like him. I love DC. He's my friend, but to me, from my experience, he doesn't do the homework. He wants to get in and out, get the job done, make his money. And I think he cares about us, but it's just different. He doesn't do the preparation from my experience. He might now. I'm hoping he watches some film this time on me so that he knows what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. But I'm not gonna hold my breath on that, that's for sure.
Well, upon researching this statement, going back and comparing Dominic Cruz's commentary to DC's commentary, my God, is it abhorrent. When Dominic Cruz is gonna commentate an event, what he does is he goes through every single fighter who's fighting on that event. He goes back, watches all their fights, tries to get a read on their tendencies. He goes through their interviews for this upcoming fight to see where their mindset is, what their game plan is, to compare it to how it's going in the octagon, right? He does a thorough deep dive into every single fighter to make sure he knows what he's talking about. And this leads to him saying smart things like this.
You know that Aldo will have the range when the right low kick starts to land. He starts with the jab, he'll go to the body, and then the low kick will land after he starts landing to the body.
DC was actually commentating with Cruz during this event, though. And, he was a two-weight world champion. He was an Olympic wrestler. Look, obviously, he's got some great insights. Let's see what he contributed to the commentary.
The 5, right. Oh, nice right hand there by Munoz. That was another good right hand there by Pedro. Pedro's very aggressive in his approach. Nice body shot there by Pedro.
Yeah. But hey, I'll be the first one to tell you, everyone has different commentary styles. Cruz is much more analytical, while DC, he's a bit more entertaining, a bit more stream of conscious. He's telling you what's going on right now, which, look, it's lazier than Dominic Cruz, but whatever, right? He's got his own style. But here is where the issues arise for me. This is what gets my blood boiling. It's when Daniel says things with 100% confidence, and he really has no idea what he's talking about. There is no better example of this than whenever Sean O'Malley fights. Sean fought Cheeto Vera way back in the day. 2 minutes into the fight, it's pretty back and forth. Not a ton's happened. They're just kind of trading kicks. Cheeto throws a leg kick, and Sean slides backwards to evade the kick, and he is successful. Because if you know anything about leg kicks, you know you want to land with your shin. Sean evaded well enough that Cheeto landed with his toes. That's not ideal. It is not a good leg kick to land with your toes. Just that simple. But in this instance, Cheeto, with his toes, hit Sean right in the perennial nerve, completely shutting his foot off. And then subsequently, afterwards, Sean kept rolling his ankle. He could not continue the fight. Now, don't get me wrong. I could completely understand your position if you say, hey, look, it doesn't really matter what happens. You're locked in a cage with someone. You're fighting. They throw an attack that led to you losing. They win. Okay, that's fine. But I also understand if you say, hey, look, there are some aspects to that sequence that are a little fluky. I mean, it was. He landed with his toes. By no means do I think Cheeto laid out the blueprint for how you beat Sean. There's no way. Daniel Cormier, though, is just absolutely convinced, though, that this is Sean's kryptonite. You just gotta kick him in the leg and his foot's gonna shut off every single time. That's what you'd think based on how he commentates every one of Sean's fights, to the point where he says things that aren't true. Sean's next fight against Thomas Almeida, Daniel and Joe Rogan, both before the fight starts, go on a tirade.
Remember, he was right on the cusp of that before his last fight against Chito Vera, a fight in which he says he didn't lose. I mean, he will not admit that he lost the fight. He said, and now, I asked Sean, I said, Sean, you got the broken ankle in the one fight that you interviewed him on the ground, then you dealt with that. I go, is that a lingering injury? He goes, we'll find out tonight, because I'm sure Almeida will try to kick me. But he said, I'm knocking this dude out, and they're going to talk about me viable again.
But Marlon Chito Vera won that fight. He won that fight with a hard low kick. He damaged his calf. He had his foot dropped. I mean, that was 100% Marlon Vera. And then when the fight went to the ground, Marlon put his lights out. He blasted him with an elbow. That's a clear victory for Marlon Vera. I understand the mentality of a winner like Sean O'Malley, but you gotta accept reality.
On the subject of not doing your homework, I find it hilarious that Daniel asked Sean if tearing his Liz Frank ligament back in 2018, which he referred to as a broken ankle, and getting kicked in the peroneal nerve was a lingering injury. I don't think that's how it works. Okay, fine. On a side tangent, though, I think it's funny to parallel that, how 100% confident Joe was that Chito destroyed Sean's leg, to when Sean went on his podcast and walked him through that fight.
Well, just people thought it was funny that you always said that wasn't a loss.
It's not. And then I'll highlight that. Down on that bottom right, or even like that. Look, I'm pulling all the way out,
So,
and his toe,
his
his toe hit, like, it wasn't a nice calf kick. His shin didn't land on my calf. It wasn't like, it was just a weird fucking thing. His toe bounced off. I like pushed a button, and my foot turned off, and it was such a weird feeling. Throws a head kick, doesn't really do much. I have to go backwards and drag it. I can't move forward.
It's crazy watching it from this angle too, because I'm only looking at that foot now, and I'm like, yeah, it's totally numb on you.
And he hasn't really, I mean.
And Joe did not have anything to say after they watched it in slow-mo and saw that he landed with the toes. But anyway, Sean fights Thomas Almeida. Thomas Almeida throws quite a few leg kicks. Every time he threw a leg kick, Joe and DC freaked out, like, oh my god, the leg kick, Sean's about to die, he hit him with a leg kick, oh my god, which, once again, look, whatever. The next fight, Sean fights Chris Mutino. I mean, is that even a real fight? The UFC, it was like on a week's notice. They just pulled some random guy from the little leagues to fight. I mean, I don't know if anyone counts that as a real fight. But then in Sean's next fight against Paiva, Daniel Cormier has the audacity to say this.
And we got to remember, that was a big factor in the Marlon Chito Vera fight.
And I don't understand why more people, if they're getting ready to fight Sean, don't throw those low outside calf kicks because of the damage Chito was able to inflict. Now, because they don't throw it, we don't see if Sean has really improved defensively in that area.
Almeida is in the white. Perfect.
Yes.
Hey.
Remember the way he got it.
So you really don't.
Thomas Almeida.
Yeah. O'Malley has landed some punches.
To fight a guy, but he is.
Brandon Harris on
There was another hard
tire of the U.
Now for him, but now he seems improvement to his skill set. And I don't understand why more people, if they're getting ready to fight Sean, don't throw those low outside calf kicks.
I mean, he's literally talking just to talk. He's literally just, he's just, how can you talk so confidently about something that, why aren't more guys kicking him in the leg? Okay, there has been one fight in between Sean's leg accident and this one. And he did get kicked in the leg. He did. He got kicked in the leg. Where are you getting it from? What are you talking about? This is what Dominic Cruz is talking about. Daniel is not doing any homework. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He watched the Sean Chito fight one time. Probably thinks Sean's had like 4 fights since then because he doesn't know. He didn't do any research. And he's like, he just had this thought. He's like, I haven't seen Sean's leg go numb since that Chito fight. People must not be kicking him in the leg. Oh, and this is not the only time Daniel has taken a freak accident in a fight and has counted it as a win for the other person with 100% certainty before. Remember Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 3? Remember that? Conor takes a step back and his foot folds in half like a piece of paper. I mean, for most rational, well-minded, fully chromosomed people, right, it's enough proof that Conor and Dustin were separated, Dustin hadn't even thrown any attack when it happened. He just stepped back, snapped his leg, a freak accident, right? For most people, that's enough. Well, the documentary came out, and we saw clear as day that Conor was having problems with that leg during that camp. He kept getting it checked out by doctors, decided to fight anyway, took a big risk, and his shin snapped, right? But what couldn't Daniel shut up about when Dustin fought Olivera?
And for Charles Olivera to be the underdog, it just speaks to the value in the McGregor fights. Because Dustin Poirier won those 2 fights. Now, are the bettors overvaluing those fights because it's Conor today opposed to Conor 4 years ago?
I thought for a second Daniel was going to say, well, maybe people are overvaluing those wins because Conor snapped his leg. And I was like, oh, look, he's actually calling the fight for what actually happened. But no, it was just like, oh, it wasn't the same as 4 years ago because his leg snapped. 4 years ago, his leg wouldn't have snapped.
The idea that the favorite came from those wins over Conor McGregor. And I didn't understand the value in those wins today. Not saying Conor's not a great fighter, but he's not Conor of 2016. So
he just could not stop saying 2 wins over Conor McGregor. He knocked him out in the second fight, and then in the third fight, he won. He won that fight. 100%. He won it. It was a win on his books. He won the fight. He defeated Conor McGregor, outskilled him in every single time, dominated 50-45'd him. To the point, for me, I thought it was weird. I was like, he is like purposefully trying to push this agenda really badly. Like, for no reason. Like, did you not see Conor threw a teep and then he stepped back and his foot snapped? Like, no, that doesn't happen normally. That happens when someone goes into a cage fight with a serious pre-existing injury. You're painting a picture to everyone watching that Dustin Poirier has 2 legitimate wins over Conor McGregor. He has 1 legitimate win, which was a knockout. You cannot get more legitimate than that. Talk all day about that. But just to sit there and simplify all those variables that went into the third fight as he beat Conor McGregor, you're painting a picture that's not accurate. Last, but certainly not least, for the things that I just can't stand about this guy, don't let him commentate Islam Makhachev ever again. Do not let him be the commentator, because it was cancerous listening to his commentary when Makhachev fought Olivera.
Against the side of the octagon, you saw that dude Bronx recognize this. Maybe this is not a fight that I want to be taking guard. Right? He's defended and stayed upright, opposed to going to his back. Missions right away.
Olivera's already been cut open for what it's.
Olivera with the active guard. Makhachev passes to half guard. Charles is going deep half sweep here.
Trying to get up. Nice job there from Olivera.
Utter cancer. The cliff notes for that fight, it basically went like this. Makhachev, to everybody's surprise, completely outclassed Olivera on the feet. Was not close. Olivera, other than some knees to the body, did not land anything significant. On the ground, at least when they were out in the open, Olivera did very, very well from guard. Not that Olivera was dominating off his back by any means, but when they were out in the open and he was in guard, he was getting the better over Makhachev overall. Paul Felder was giving Olivera all the credit he could for this. Daniel stayed quiet the entire time through all those sequences, up until Islam had Charles pushed up against the fence where he was in a more dominant position. Then he decided to give his 2 cents.
Something you don't want. You don't want to just continuously be stuck under Islam Makhachev. He's too good here. His base is so strong.
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
And this doesn't deter Charles Olivera. If you remember, Kevin Lee had a lot of success in round 1 on the ground against Bronx. So he will make the same attacks as the fight goes on.
Strong example right there coming down the stretch of...
Yeah, so another side tangent here. Apparently, Olivera will not be deterred that he can't get much off pushed up against the fence against Makhachev, because Kevin Lee had a lot of success in round 1 against Olivera. He had a lot of success. Well, I just rewatched round 1, and the second it goes to the ground, the entire sequence of them on the ground, it is Kevin Lee constantly defending submissions. Constantly. The second it hit the ground, Olivera, submission attempt, submission attempt, submission attempt, submission attempt, submission attempt. Kevin Lee couldn't do anything till about 20 seconds left. He had some decent ground and pound at the very end. That is not a lot of success. That's not true. And once again, Daniel does not do homework. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He has a vague memory of them going to the ground and Kevin Lee not getting submitted. And to him, he just has a very vague kind of sort of recollection that Kevin Lee did very well in that round. And him not being a professional, that's enough for him. That's enough for him to speak it out to the millions of people watching. Dana, just please fire this guy. Please. I don't want to hear him anymore in the commentary. I don't want to. Please.